The clay rare earth sector is sort of buzz with sort of activities and results, and you know, and that coupled with that comes with understanding of what it really means. At this stage, you know, the maturity of the understanding, I feel, and for those guys that have sort of been following conversation in Samso, is that it's all about the lab now. It's about the recoveries and things like that. And you know, I will go further. It's not about being ionic or non-ionic, and we've had various discussions. It's really a balancing act between all the factors that are required to make the processing work. How do you think that is? Do you think we've got this on song, or do we need to all go back to grade school and start again?
I don't know if we need to go back to grade school to start again, but look, as with every project in our sector, not just rare earths, it's about economics, right? So this is the way I like to think about it. When our project was first introduced to me, and at that point in time, the company, as it was privately, had drilled 100 odd holes. And I took a look at the results, and as you said earlier, I'd come from a background out of Arafura, hard rock. So my thinking was all around hard rock. At that particular point in time, I'd run a consultancy for about 9 months at that point, seen a lot of other projects as well, rare earth projects as well. So I looked at the grade to begin with of HRE's project, and I thought, holy hell, how can you make money out of several hundred parts per million to a couple of thousand parts per million of rare earths in the ground, you know? Having come from a background where we're looking at tens of thousands of % in the ground, which is hard enough to make money from. So, you know, I had to sort of step back and say, I really need to think this through if I come to the position where I think these can happen. And of course they can happen, because the Chinese have been commercialising clay-hosted rare earths for quite some time, and there are a couple of others out there around the world that are getting there as well. So that's the first thing, is that the first thoughts to me when I looked at these projects was it's all around economics. You know, how can you make money out of this? And it took me a while to sort of get there, to be perfectly honest, and having chats with guys inside of HRE, I really had to make that point early on, is that it's all great to talk about, oh, they might be cheaper to mine and this and that and the other, but you know, you're already starting with a pretty low grade. And it's not just us, it's all the guys in the clay-hosted space, whether it's a couple of thousand ppm or 500 ppm in the ground. It's going to be a challenge to make money out of it in Australia, compared to the Chinese, of course, who have, you know, much tighter cost controls. There's a whole lot of advantages of doing that type of project in China, and they're advantages that we can't capitalise on in Australia for obvious reasons: lower labour costs, less environmental controls, all those sorts of things that can make it easier to commercialise a clay-hosted project in China. So I don't think we need to go back to grade school, whether it's ionic, non-ionic, so on and so forth. We just got to think in terms of project economics, okay? And where I've arrived at today with heavy rare earths is that I think there's a real opportunity to begin to look at the commercialisation of it. It's not just about what's drilling in the ground. It is as much to do with what's in the ground as it is in the lab, as you point out. Absolutely, because you know, you've got to recover the rare earths as efficiently as possible at the lowest possible price. And that's where I think we've gotten to with HRE, and I think that that's what's going to play out over the next little while in the clay-hosted space in Australia, as people get more results in around metallurgy and begin to understand the cost drivers of these things. You'll probably see a few more step up and make themselves known to the market that these are a chance, and there'll be a whole bunch of others that won't make it, and that's just the reality of life in our sector. And nothing to be afraid of, but I think that's just where the market is, and it's catching on very, very quickly, I would say.